Hello and welcome to RetroHaven. In the last video we took a closer look at each character of the first game and learned more about them. But in this video we will take a look at something different and focus on the gameplay elements of the game. This is Daniel from RetroHaven and welcome to Resident Evil Retrospective Part 4. First, let's set the rules. What we define as gameplay elements can be categorized in camera and presentation, combat, puzzles, atmosphere, story and engagement related things, and finally control scheme. We will give each one of these elements 2 scores out of 100. One will be the rating for the game at the time of its release and one will be the modern time rating based on our conception. Please note that this is RetroHaven's opinion, and you can give your own score to each element down below in the comment section and represent your own counter argument for anything that you feel we are off. With that said, let's start the retrospective part 4. Camera and presentation. The first thing that comes to mind in the classic Resident Evil games is the static camera. As a player, you have zero control over the camera in these games, and it works like a two-sided blade. In one hand, it helps the tension and atmosphere of the game, and on the other hand, it causes some obscurity that some people might not like in the game. This level of control over the camera is well made in Resident Evil 1. And point of view will always have something unique to tell you about the room that you are in. Usually when you enter an area with puzzle and almost no danger, the warmth of the color will give you a sense of ease. On the other hand, the camera can be pointed at you in some of the rooms, and usually when this happens, I know that I have to wait for an enemy to appear out of nowhere. A great example of this is the steam room full of chimeras, and when you enter you will see only yourself, the door, and some unpleasant feeling that something is waiting to hunt you down. To be honest, this limitation in camera angle might limit your options, but indeed it makes you see the world as the game artist designed and planned you to see it. For example, consider the first scene in the game where you stand in the main hall. This main hall is massive and helps the feeling that you are tiny and lost in the process. If the camera angle was behind your shoulder or any type of first person or third person that you are used to in these days, these feelings might be a little bit off and you could not believe that PS1 with that era of graphic could deliver some atmosphere without using this technique. On the other hand, consider a game with over-shoulder perspective. In these games you will see the back of player as soon as you start up until the end. But with this type of presentation you will see your character from all different angles and take a closer look at what they are. There is no HUD, nothing to get you out of the way of feeling that you are watching a movie or some artistic work, and this makes Resident Evil 1 on PS1 something memorable, even 20 something years later. Of course, this kind of representation is not all glory and great things. Sometimes the zombies and enemies can block your point of view, and these cases usually end up with you getting some sucker punch or even dying in the game. So with that said, let's give our points to the game. The original camera of this game will get the point 90 out of 100 from us. But when it comes to the modern day camera and presentation, surprisingly, I got to say that the camera aspect of the game aged extremely well. But since it's a graphical asset of an extremely low-res system, then the presentation of the game is not that good for the modern eyes. So we can give it 50 out of 100 for 2021 score. Combat. To be honest, this part of Resident Evil 1 was one of the worst things that could be much better. In this game, you should use a shoulder button to make your weapon ready, and then use the action button to trigger the shot. And this is a major problem for many people because the depth of vision is changing from scene to scene, and in each screen you will have some trouble to find out where you are looking at. In the initial version of the game, this problem was extremely bad because The lack of auto-aim was the main problem that I had with aiming. Sometimes I pointed at a zombie or another enemy and shoot, but because of the camera angle I couldn't identify that I shot the zombie or I shot off by 1 or 2 centimeters. As a result, this problem makes the knife combat extremely useless in this game. Most of the time when you try to knife a zombie, they will tank your attack and come to you like nothing attacked them, nothing touched them, and they will take a bite out of you. The funny thing is that handgun and knife almost have the same rate of fire. So with 4 or 5 slash or 4 or 5 bullets you can kill a zombie, but the problem is that when you knife a zombie they will not stagger, they will not fall, and they will come forward until they get a bite out of you. But when you shoot them with the gun, they will be pushed back a little bit. That's why the knife is not worthy of use in this game. The other issue I have with the combat in this game is aiming down or up while shooting. For example, when you aim up or down, the scope of your shooting will be reduced dramatically, and it makes fighting some enemies like chimeras that hang from the ceiling extremely hard. The other problem that I have is the delay between making your gun ready and shooting. For example, consider a Cerberus dog is attacking you and you shoot to drop it, but your field of view is something that causes problem and the dog drops out of your field of view. So you have to move forward to see the dog and then shoot it. But when you try to make your gun ready, the dog will stand up and might even take a bite out of you. Long story short, it takes a huge amount of time for a STARS member to ready their gun for shooting. And this is extremely bad while you try to shoot downward or upward. For example, when you want to shoot downward, you have to aim forward and then get your gun down again. This will happen every single time that you move an inch because you cannot shoot and run at the same time. And this static stance while shooting is one of the worst things that Resident Evil games stuck to up until Resident Evil 4. That said, it's time to give a score to this game. Combat wise, in 1996 we could give a score 50 out of 100 to this game, but when you scale up things to 2021, the score of 20 out of 100 will be a generous score for this game. And it makes the combat the worst aspect of the game so far. Puzzles. What can I say to make them justice? The main puzzles of the game are not a part of pre-planned scheme, and I gotta say that the main puzzle is item management in this game. Most of the time the main struggle is that you have too many key items, weapons, healing items, and ammunition, so you don't know which one you have to pick for the way in front of you. The main issue is that you have a limited amount of inventory space, and there is no continue in this game. Even for saving you should carry increment, and the funny thing is that they take the same amount of space as a freaking grenade launcher. In my first playthrough in 1996, there were a lot of times that I reached a key item, but I didn't have enough space to pick it up, so I had to get back to some box and then empty some of the items that I have, and after that I had to get back to the item and pick it up again. While in the way there were so many enemies that I might end up dying. God's sake, at least allow us to discard some of the items. I don't want that healing item, or I don't want that bullet at the moment. Let me discard it right on the spot. Today when you play it for the 10th or 15th time, or you are referring to many guides and walkthroughs online, you might not feel this is an issue at all. But consider back in 1996 there were nothing such as internet that we have today, and you had to do things by trial and error, especially when you are a 14-year-old boy like the stupid me back then, and you are sitting in a rental shop and playing PlayStation because you are too poor to own one for yourself. And consider that I didn't know anything about English and I have limited knowledge about this language, and the game was fully in English. So think about that and see what kind of trouble I had picking up an item or knowing what the hell shall I do with that item. All I had to do was to look at the item and use my imagination to see what it might be used for. The pre-planned puzzles were great in this game. For example, the now famous painting room puzzle was a very hard one for me because I didn't know what the hell is going on. I couldn't read what's going on for each one of the paintings. but today they might be a little bit tame and simple compared to what we have in 2021. But in general, those puzzles were great for their time. It's time to give the score to the puzzles. The score for 1996 would be 90 out of 100, and when it comes to 2021, we can go a little bit lower and give the score as 80 out of 100, which is damn impressive for this game. Atmosphere, story and engagement. Resident Evil 1 atmosphere was built on tension. The feeling of loneliness and being helpless in the giant mansion will grow more and more as you play. And to be honest, it doubles up increased camping. The lighting, sound effects and camera sync together extremely well, and even when you have a lot of guns and healing items, you are not sure that you're gonna survive. The atmosphere inside the game was great, but man, oh man, the starting cutscene was so bad that only a dumb 14-year-old me would love them. They have a level of cheesiness to them, but they are not good for what we consider as cutscene today. Voice acting is a story of its own, and nowadays it has an award to its name. So whenever a cutscene started in game, no matter it was an in-game engine cutscene or pre-recorded one, it killed the atmosphere for me. When it comes to the engagement, the story is interesting enough to keep you interested up until the end. This story is by no means award-winning material, but for a game in 1996, it was new and it made the blooming survival horror feel great. The story will never get in your way, but it's always there. You feel the presence of something greater than you inside this mansion, and this type of engagement is something that makes you come back for more each time you save and you get departed from your device. Giving a score to this aspect of the game is hardest in the whole list that we are talking about. But after a long discussion within RetroHaven, we came to agreement that the marks for 1996 is 75 out of 100, and when it's translated to 2021, we have to give 52 out of 100 for Resident Evil 1 atmosphere, story and engagement. Control scheme. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. I don't understand the hate people have for tank control. I mean, yeah, the fluid control scheme of today's game is much better, but if you compare this game to the other games of the same era, you will see the problem. For example, consider that the game control was not locked on the character's angle. Then you could be in huge trouble when the scene changed. For example, the camera angle changed while you are pressing down. So, the down was forward in the last screen, but in this screen it's other way. So what will happen? Your character will start turning around like a moron. What I'm trying to say is that tank control was the product of its limitation, and in that era it was the best option for a game such as Resident Evil. They could not sacrifice the scenic view and the camera angles, so the best unified way to keep the control intact in all of the game was tank control. To be honest, I can't see any other control scheme that would work well for this type of game, and that's why the control scheme for Resident Evil 1 will get 90 out of 100 for me. I reduced 10 points because it's a little bit stiff and the movement in this entry has nothing to do with the tank control itself. The point for 2021 will remain the same because there's nothing you can do to make the pre-rendered background and fixed camera angle work better without tank control. So in the end, this game got the average point 79 out of 100 for the 1996 point of view, which is a damn good mark for me. And the point, when you look at it at 2021 glass, reduces dramatically and you will get 58.4 out of 100. If you ask me, it's still much better than many of the brainless modern games we play today. That's it, thank you for watching this video. Please let us know what score you give to each point down in the comments. And if you like the video, please like and share it with your friends and subscribe if you haven't already. And please don't forget to click on the bell icon to get notified about our latest video. This is Daniel from RetroHaven and I will see you in the next video.